water safety, and why we still need to be talking about Flint.
Today, Flint, Michigan is a household name. A city of less than 100,000 residents, it is famous for its legacy of water-poisoned children and in highlighting major public health challenges that the United States still face. A couple years ago, an important public health problem came into the spotlight as a result of Flint's sick children, lead contamination of water.
So why is water contamination bad for you? Water contamination can have disastrous effects for children and pregnant women especially. Any level of exposure to lead is considered harmful, but prenatal lead exposure can have dangerous health effects on the baby. For example, prenatal lead exposure has been linked to birth defects such as stunted growth, as well as long-term health effects such as smaller kidney volume and impaired visual and auditory function. Furthermore, as previous literature confirms, increased lead levels impact the same neurological components that affect stress, so lead-contaminated water can take a toll on mental health too.
Nice.
Different contaminants find their way into the water in different ways. TCE, for example, is a commonly used industrial solvent that has been known to contaminate water through runoffs and leakages. In the case of nitrates, research has been shown that there are higher concentrations of nitrate in drinking water in areas where there are more dairy farms due to nitrogen used in fertilizer. With Flint, lead got into the water when old pipes corroded, and lead stayed in the water because the government failed to make the presence of lead in the water public.
For all the knowledge that exists about these negative health effects, the important part about the lead contamination in Flint, Michigan is that it was forgotten. The lack of adequate American public health infrastructure, especially in marginalized communities, definitely contributed to this problem. What did happen to Flint and the sick children that were so heavily featured in the news years ago? The short answer is that they're still sick. Unfortunately, there is no available treatment that can reverse the damage done by lead poisoning.
Another threat to the water supply are toxic contaminants. TCE exposure can occur in utero when pregnant mothers drink TCE-contaminated water. In the past, studies have shown a correlation between TCE and human congenital heart disease, and also a higher prevalence of congenital heart disease in children whose parents were exposed to TCE-contaminated water. A possible correlation between heart abnormalities and TCE exposure could mean a lifetime of health effects for a baby born with heart abnormalities. Nitrates are another toxic water contaminant. High nitrate levels are linked to human disease, low birth weights, neural tube defects, miscarriages, and anencephaly.
Water safety is a family issue.
So what can we do?
One, speak up. We urge members of the local community to be advocates for regular monitoring of the water. Please, speak up if you think the water tastes funny. Your voice will be heard and it will make a difference.
2. Collaboration. We also urge state governments to work with governmental agencies to monitor the water regularly and to make their findings public.
3. Prevention. Prevention is key to combating lead poisoning and other illnesses associated with water contamination. Prevention and not forgetting, that is. On a more individual basis, prevention can take the form of containing nitrogen used in fertilizer on dairy farms, or making sure that newly installed water pipes are free of PCE. On a more comprehensive level, however, prevention of negative health effects will come from close monitoring of the drinking water. Drinking water needs to be monitored for the dangerous contaminants constantly and publicly. A critical failure in the Flint case occurred when findings about lead in the water were not made public. The public has a right to know what's in their drinking water because they are directly affected by it, sometimes in terrible and irreversible ways. Yet the residents of Flint were kept in the dark.
Our takeaway point is that the human health cost of ignoring water contamination is too great to be ignored. The best way to acknowledge water contamination is to remain as aware as possible of what's in the water through regular and frequent monitoring.
So don't ignore funny tasting water and don't ignore sick children.